Hello, hello, high frequency tribe. Qigong, Tai Chi. This is my wheelhouse. This is stuff that I've been pursuing, practicing, integrating, learning, sharing for a couple decades now. And I've been wanting to put a video together for just what I call freeform practice in the Qigong, the integration of Qigong and Tai Chi and other sort of stuff that I've been interested over this span of practice. And I've been sharing and teaching for a long time, and over this course of time, I've been able to, at least I feel, create a really practical learning environment around in the engaging and interacting with the subtle body or the layers of qi. But I want to start with why the physical body would benefit from a particular practice like the one that I'm going to present today. And often, if we simplify, and that's a big piece of what I like to bring to my offerings, is to simplify so that the relationship that we're building with our body in order to connect with the subtle body or the chi or the prana or the the earth's chi, Gaia's chi, however put in your favorite version, prana, chi, life force. And so if we just I'm going to focus just on the physical body for a moment. And when the physical body is forming in the uterus, there's who shows up first to create us in the physical creation, I mean. And that is blood supply, lymph supply, nerve, the nervous system, and connective tissue. These all form and create us. If we go back in time and really look at the first 6, 7 weeks, 8 weeks in the uterus, there is no brain, there is no heart, there is no lung, there is no organ, there's no bone, there's just blood, the movement and creation of blood and lymph, connective tissue, the nervous system, and qi. This is sort of this is the beginning stages of what's forming us, and this is why I feel Qigong as a practice, what we're really trying to engage with is that beginning layer. This is where all of our healing potential and creative potential, as far as the physical body goes, is when it's working its hardest to get us going. And I even have a fun little diagram that I like to show my students. I don't have red today, so I couldn't show you the blue represents the blood supply, the orange represents the lymph, the little specks represent the nervous system, and these crazy lines represent the connective tissue. And it's unrecognizable in the beginning. It's just, we look almost like a sea creature in those early stages with all the cells and everything kind of multiplying. There's a lot of stimulation happening there in that system. And so eventually there's a point when we start to separate into more of a kidney looking shape. Bum, bum, bum. And this is before when we separate, this is where the head will eventually be and the pelvis will eventually be. And then there's this layer around us, which is part of the connective tissue layer, that turns into ligaments and sinews and muscles, and the bones start to form as the kidneys start to form, etc. And so, if we're looking at wanting to really expand upon our healing story, looking at the body as we are repairing and healing and nourishing from this level forward. There's a practice called microcosmic orbit that does a little bit of that kind of breakdown. I won't do that today. I just want to get into the experiential of a Qigong practice infused with Tai Chi concepts, to really kind of get your free-form practice started. It's great for regulating and balancing the nervous system. Why is that important? Because the nervous system is connected to the muscle, which is connected to blood flow, which is connected to lymph flow. So they're all, they're all in relation with one another. You can't pull one apart and be like, this is broken and this isn't, or this is stagnant and this isn't, right? And so what is stagnation? What is the term that's often used is chaos in Qigong. It's like when the radio station's not quite there and there's all that static. So we're tuning into, how do we tune into it? It's that perception. Perception is attention, intention, all of those sort of skill sets that can come from other practices really complement the movement practice of Qigong. And what I like about the freeform is it allows you to just tap into that experience and then just see where you go with it. But how do we tap into that experience? First, we want to warm up our senses and warm up the held or chaotic tension in our body, which often shows, it's like sore muscles or fatigued muscles, but that's more, kind of like daily stress or daily tension. If we're looking at the big picture, how is it we hold tension? Why do we hold tension here in this area of our body more than the person who holds more tension in this area of their body? And these are our habitual stress patterns that go all the way back to the early stages of our development, physical development, mental development, emotional development. And so when we are prepping the body for a Qigong practice, part of what we're doing is wanting to warm up and bring blood flow, which is lymph flow, which is nerve function, which is Qi function, to an area that's restricted. So if we have a really strong holding pattern and the blood supply is really static, really slow in that area, moving thick, the capillaries aren't having their full exchange of oxygen, which means that the nerve function isn't having its full expression of functionality. And if we look at the nerve function, there's the function of the nerve that tells the muscle to contract based on movement and to release based on movement. But there's also proprioceptors and mirror neurons and all of these other kind of components inside the nervous system that have to do with not just helping the physical body move through space, but perceive the body moving through space. In order to perceive the body, if the neurons are restricted, the mirror neuron or the proprioceptors, then we're not able to access the information in that area to the full capacity because it's dull. It's kind of behind a silk layer of information, it's not clear. And so the warm-up is so important because we're trying to get blood flow, which is nerve flow and function and lymphatic, to that area or areas in order for the fuller expression to be realized, the fuller expression of connecting with our Qi, our environment. So we have, if we move forward, the baby's been birthed, we've been birthed. By that point, our muscles and bones and all of that have been created. And so the meridian system starts to come into play, and the meridian system is under the Chinese medicine practice, and these are energy lines that travel through the body that are in relation to organs and other things. And I'm not going to get into a lot of that in this particular presentation, but I will point out that the connective tissue lines that run through the body that support us they've now can see that the science has seen, because now science has said it's real, so it is, that the meridian and the connective tissue are in the same area. And so when we're doing movements in this connected, perceptive, intentional way, we are harnessing, broadening, strengthening our ability to interact with our subtle body or our chi body, while also strengthening and giving blood flow and muscle function to the whole thing. Because we want to try and maximize as many wonderful things as we can in a qigong practice. So it's about intention, which is imagination, that creative process, and that's where my little image came in, because we're playing around with, and you can Google stuff and look at the pictures. Some of them are quite beautiful, and so when we're warming an area up, it could be as simple as rubbing your hands over that area, rubbing your hands together. These are real classic, warm-up practices for a qigong. But what happens if we have an area that's the density and the stress or the tension pattern is so strong? What are some ways for us to kind of activate a sense of release in those areas to get the function, the system back online, the mechanism for healing, self-healing back online, and it's to stimulate it. And so for myself, because of multiple car accidents and other phenomenons, for me it's low back. Low back is when I'm in a more stressful response in my physical body, emotional body, etc., I feel it compress through there. And when it compresses through my lower discs, because of all the nerves in that area and the lymph in that area, fanning outward into my organs become more sensitive to food, so I have a stronger reaction to inflammatory foods, for example. How do I get to my back without being, a pretzel, a contortionist? And it's you come through the front, because whatever's going on in the front or the back, they will relate to each other. And so we have a bunch of trigger points, and trigger points are activating points, areas that you can stimulate that create a ripple through that system, right? A ripple through that system, so that we are activating a stronger quality of blood, nerve function, lymph function, qi function, etc. And so how do you know where those spots are? Well, you start to push around and feel, and if the area feels tense or tender, then you just start to massage it, and you can go clockwise or counterclockwise, sort of, you can go up and down, you can zigzag. You can introduce tools. This is called a gua sha tool, which is just a thin piece of jade with some ridges. And you can use the ridges as a way, if your hands maybe don't have the strength to get into an area, you can use that to kind of help stimulate blood flow. And so sometimes we're thinking of wanting to open the whole kind of channel up, and you can do long strokes. But other times we're thinking we just want to activate a sense of response through the body. And so you can find, it doesn't have to be the whole part of the body, it can just be locations of the body. So for me, here's my navel, here's my pubic bone. And so when I'm doing stuff for my low back, for example, I'm taking a tool like this, or even just using my hands, and I use my hands the same way you would if you were scrubbing pots and pans. You're kind of using the elbow grease, and I would stimulate this area. And then when it's really bad, I have a wrap, and I wrap my lower body up from the pubic bone right in to the edge of the hip. So this is an example. Might be tricky to see. I'm just going to shift my viewpoint for a moment. There we go. Thank you. And so I would put mine on before I get dressed. So here's the hip joint. Here's the top of the pelvis. And I would tuck it into my underwear right here. And the first layer goes right across my pubic bone. And so I'm here, and then I would wrap it around. There we go. And I would open it up. Opening mean make it wide. And I would just start wrapping it. You can sort of see it starts to come around. And it's a little tricky to figure out on your own, but there we are. And then I tuck it in. And so this would be under my clothes. But the tension in this shape really helps facilitate the muscle fibers not being under an uncomfortable stress load. So when you wrap your belly in this way, your lower back, it creates this very gentle compression, and that compression helps the signals through these systems become less intense. And so you can do all of your rubbing and moving to warm up the area, to stimulate blood flow. You can find activation points and really kind of push into them and circle into them as a way to increase more responsivity. And then again, this is part of the warm-up practice to get you into your Qigong free form practice. So let's see, 16 minutes. I'm saying that because I'm going to put a note saying that at 16 minutes, I'm going to start the movement practice. So you can skip ahead as you get more familiar with what we're doing. So my most favorite exercise, warm up, is called child's play. So we've done all the moving around of the connective tissue, and you can use tapping and striking. You can rub into the kidneys, you can find those points. So we've done a lot of that so that we've activated our trunk, our core. And by core, I don't mean core, I mean your organs, your lymph, the body's in a more receptive place. And so then I move into what I call child's play. And that's shifting my weight from side to side and letting my arms be really, really noodly inside the movement. Really, really noodly inside the movement. There we are, and you can walk around like I am. And you can start to bounce and hop a little bit. And in the beginning, child's play is just helping the body remember what it feels like to move in a relaxed way. So you could have your wrap on after you've done all that stimulation. You could have your moxa pack on, which is a heat pack. And you could get away with doing this for 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 minutes, really, because it's all going to help your system, blood supply, nerve supply, lymph supply, chi supply, to get activated and start to really work. We're making it work a little bit louder, a little bit stronger. Then there's the impact that you can feel or hear. The arms on the body. And so child's play helps us learn about moving in a relaxed way. Why is that important? Because we are wanting to learn about fluidity as an expression of power, of force, without effort or exertion. And so child's play is a great entry for that. And then you can let your arms start to hover, so they're not touching the body, and I've slowed down a little bit. And now we get into the perception of things. So close your eyes and feel your environment with your hands. Maybe you'll feel the wind passing through your fingers, the atmosphere passing through your fingers. And again, you can shuffle around. You don't have to stay in one spot. You can shift your weight from side to side and move forward and move back and turn to look one way while having your arms move through space. Now space is gravity, and gravity is chi, is one perspective that I like to think about, because we're taught that gravity is this room, right? But gravity is so much more than that, because it's a way for us to connect. And so as you're moving from side to side and your eyes are closed, you can perceive things a little bit different with your eyes closed. And imagine that the space around you is full of gravity and full of chi, and you have access to that because you're part of it. And so you're just floating, gliding, moving, carving. There's so many ways to kind of think about it. And sometimes chi feels kind of really heavy and dense like molasses, but not always. Sometimes it's sparkly, like the way the sun bounces off the water, sparkly. And so you're moving from side to side. And this is where it's freeform. So you can go even slower and start to allow yourself to expand your consciousness and your awareness into the room, into the plants, into the furniture, into the walls, into the ceiling. You know, you can push through that and think of the building or the house that you're in. If you're doing this outside, you can incorporate the trees and the bushes and the grass and the forest critters, because it's imagination intention. This is where we're fusing the gentle structural quality of movement with our imagination. And so freeform is you can just start to move around. You can think of making figure eights. You can think of going from side to side. You can think of circular motions, clockwise and counterclockwise. But it's all related to the body moving, so that your legs are bending, you're shifting weight, you're feeling gravity, you're feeling strong, and you're feeling connected to your ability to move in a fluid and graceful way. So another strategy that I like is to really warm up the senses in another way, and this is called spiraling hands. And this is where you rotate the forearms through the middle finger, and I'm going to go a little bit quicker so it starts to get really activated, and you can see all the muscles are starting to wiggle and jiggle about. And you can bounce. In your bouncing, you can think of heel striking. So I'm not jumping, I'm lifting my heels up and striking them down as a way to really charge through the structure, charge through the skeleton while doing spiraling hands. And so sometimes you might find one of your hands doesn't want to do it or it feels really restricted. And so you can just kind of shake them out a little bit, shake it out a little bit, and then come back to spiraling hands, rotating, spiraling hands. And you can go from side to side. You can get into some sort of groovy dance movements. Spiraling hands, spiraling hands, spiraling hands. And so with spiraling hands, one of the things that it offers is it's agitating in a positive way this system, blood supply, nerve supply, function, all that stuff, chi function. We have more nerve endings in the hands. Our hands are very powerful to be able to sense and touch and move. And so still spiraling hands if you can. So when we do spiraling hands, we are agitating, and I mean that as in activating our sensitivity. So when you stop, close your eyes and have your palms face towards one another and feel what sensations occur in the palms, between the palms, the spaces between the hands, and just sort of maybe even bounce the hands away and towards one another as a way to kind of help bring in the focal point of what you're noticing. And you want the hands structured here. If the hands are too loose or too rigid, it will change the quality of what it is we're looking at. And then you can go back to spiraling hands. You know, and as you do spiraling hands, you can stop and you can do some reaching and back. You know, reaching down, reaching up and back. And I'm just sort of throwing everything at you so that you can have a chance to later on just focus on one element of it and just repeat it over and over for a few minutes. So even this section, if you just repeat it over and over, come back, repeat it over and over to help build in that familiarity. But I just want to give you a sort of a crash course in it all, and it's okay. So still doing spiraling hands, and again coming back to this container or this structure and really allowing, being curious of what sensations you're experiencing within or around you. And then from here, you can start to do your movement from side to side and see if the space around you, the gravitational energy, it has what the quality is, what you're noticing as you suspend and move through space from side to side. And you can, again, think of reaching up, think of reaching down, etc. So spiraling hands and movement to induce freeform activity. So we put it all together and you've got a really nice warm-up where you're stimulating the tissue and the blood supply through striking or rubbing or bouncing or activating. And then as the body's in that space, we reinforce the importance of gliding through the movement, gliding through our physical body, so that the tension pattern, when it's restricted, we don't feel like